Welcome to my kitchen, which I call the sweet spot. If you're a new viewer to my channel, so glad you found me. If you're a returning viewer, you know I always love to bring delicious recipes to all of you, and today is going to be no different. There's one flavor I did like one recipe with it a while back, and I haven't done much with it, but it's a flavor that reminds me of my childhood. For one, because it was a flavor my father loved. And that flavor is banana. So I did make a banana cream pie. I gave that recipe to all of you. But today we're going to make a banana cream. You guessed it, because you saw the mountain of cream cheese here. Banana cream cheesecake. We're going to mix the iconic elements of a banana cream pie and put that into a cheesecake. You see the vanilla wafers, you see the cream cheese. You know this is going to be good. Coming up next on the sweet spot. The first step to making our banana cream cheesecake is making our cheesecake crust. And traditionally, cheesecake crusts are made with graham cracker crumbs. We're gonna make ours with vanilla wafer crumbs. You're not ready for this crust, I'm telling you. So I have my food processor here. I have my bowl of vanilla wafers. I have my butter, my sugar, my salt, and we're gonna actually get started by making our crust. The first thing we need to do is pulse all of those vanilla wafers into nice crumbs so we can actually press them into the bottom of our spring pan. So just going to remove the lid of my food processor and just throw all of those vanilla wafers into there. This is another thing that reminds me of a kid, because I could eat a whole box of vanilla wafers as a kid. I loved these cookies. This and animal crackers. I have to find a recipe to do with animal crackers so that I could relive that childhood as well. All right, so we're gonna put our lid on. I find the best way to turn my graham crackers or my vanilla wafers into crumbs is to pulse. I don't just throw it on high, because by pulsing, it moves the vanilla wafers around and it jolts everything to where you get a nice even blend, versus if I just put it on high, I could get the bottom layer all crumbled up but have big chunks. So that's why I suggest using the pulse feature until all of your vanilla wafers come to a nice crummy texture. So I have a nice even crumb, no chunks of the wafers in my food processor. The next thing I need to do is I'm going to add my sugar, a pinch of salt, and my butter. The butter is kind of the glue that brings all of those crumbs together to help form the crust. You need something to bring those cookies back together so that they'll form that crust. And what we're going to do is put our lid back on and pulse again until I start to see almost like the crumbs come together and almost like a cookie dough consistency in a way. Okay, so my butter's all mixed in. As you can see, my graham cracker, not graham crackers, I'm making a cheesecake, so I think graham cracker. My vanilla wafers. So my wafers have come together by adding that butter. So I'm just gonna take a spatula and help me scoop that right into my prepared pan. So I like to use a spring pan, and I like to prepare it with a sheet of parchment paper. This just helps your cheesecake come out like beautifully, to the point to where you don't have, you're not struggling or breaking your cheesecake with trying to get it out of the pan or sticking to the bottom. Parchment, I suggest all of you put a sheet of parchment at the bottom of your pan. So now that we have our crust in the pan, I just kind of take a spatula and move it around just a little, just to try to get a little even in the bottom of that pan. All right. because the next thing we're gonna do is take the bottom of a glass. I like to use the bottom of a measuring cup. Anything that's nice and round that has a flat bottom, because what you're gonna do is next is you're gonna gently press all of that crust into the bottom of your pan and up along the sides. And just working down in a circular pattern and getting a nice even coating all around until you get it really pressed in before we pre-bake it. And as you can see, I'm just using the measuring cup, pressing it in, just pressing it down and then up against the sides. Really getting a nice coating of that wafer crust all the way around. So I didn't mention it before, but you want to preheat your oven for 350 degrees. So before you start pulsing your wafers and making your crust, preheat your oven to 350. I want to show you what the crust looks like. So you can see we have it all nice pressed into our spring pan. We're gonna bake this for 8 minutes so it can firm up and really create a beautiful base for our cream cheese filling to create that texture when we bite into it. So I'm going to put this in the oven for 8 minutes and then start showing you how to make our banana cream cheesecake batter. Let's start making the cheesecake filling. I often say cream cheese filling, but it's really cheesecake filling. It's just tons of cream cheese. So let's make our cheesecake filling starting with all of that cream cheese. So it's 4 blocks, 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese. It's a lot of cream cheese. What I like to do is whip out the cream cheese before adding the sugar, just to smooth it out so it creates a smooth base for that batter. So just put on my mixing blade. I'm gonna mix this on medium high until my cream cheese is nice and smooth. So my cream cheese is nice and smooth. I'm just gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl. Before adding our other ingredients. And then also scrape it off the mixing blade. All right, and the next ingredient we're gonna add is our sugar. So we're gonna take our sugar and we're gonna blend our sugar and cream cheese together to kind of create a nice base. Okay, just scraping my bowl, and this is when I like to scrape the bottom just to make sure none of my granulated sugar settled in the bottom and it's not getting mixed in to the cream cheese. Also, I love that step because when the sugar hits the cream cheese, you get that aroma. Smells so good, I get excited. Next, we're gonna add our eggs, and I'm gonna do half of the eggs at a time. So I'm gonna add 2 and then add the second 2. And you're gonna blend those on medium as well. The eggs are fully incorporated. This recipe is one of those where you really need to scrape the sides of your mixing bowl, scrape underneath, because you can get chunks of cream cheese that stick to the bottom or to the sides. So you really want to make sure you're folding that batter to ensure all your ingredients are getting blended together. Next, we're going to add our sour cream and our magic ingredient, the banana puree. Now, don't worry if your banana sits out. As you know, like if you've ever had fresh bananas sit out on the countertop, they oxidize. So don't be bothered if you see your bananas oxidize. It's completely normal. So we're gonna blend those together and then add our remaining ingredients on medium. And no, the oxidation of the banana does not change the color of the batter. You're still gonna have this nice, fresh banana colored cheesecake batter. And once again, as you can see, I'm scraping down the sides of my bowl. It smells amazing now that that banana's in there. It's gonna smell even better as we add our remaining ingredients. So we're gonna go ahead and add our flour, vanilla, banana extract, and our pinch of salt. Boop, just a little bit. And then we're gonna blend that on medium and let that cheesecake batter all come together. The batter's all done. It's time to put it into our pan over that beautiful vanilla wafer crust that smells amazing. I'm just getting that aroma from the crust and it smells so good. So what we're gonna do next is we're just gonna pour our cheesecake filling on the top. I did take an extra step. I did fold the mixture after I took it off the stand mixer just to make sure everything had got blended. So because mine has a little lip, I'm just gonna pour my batter into that pan and try to get it as even as possible. And then I'll use my spatula in a little bit to get the remaining into the bowl, into the pan. All right, I think we got most of it, and let's just encourage the remaining to come out. Okay, mixing bowl to the side so I don't knock it over. And then take the spatula and just encourage the batter to kind of even out. It's smooth enough that it will, but I like to just wiggle it around and move the spatula until I get an even coating. And also I'll take and just gently wiggle the cheesecake in the spring pan just to get that batter to kind of even out. All right, so now it's time to prep for baking. Cheesecake baking is a technique, and it's a specific technique that will ensure you have a great result and a great bake. And that's baking in a hot water bath. And the reason why I say hot water bath is because you want the water to already be close to boiling temperature when the pan hits the oven. You don't want the oven to warm up the water. You already want warm water. Also, because it's in a water bath, you need to protect your cheesecake in your pan. There's two things you can do. I used to take plastic wrap around the edges and then take foil. But then what I did, I just purchased a cheap pan that's a size bigger than my spring pan. My spring pan is 9 inches. I just got a 10-inch cake pan. And this is my cheesecake pan because I no longer worry about the foil leaking, the plastic leaking, because water wants to go where water wants to go. So because I have a solid pan, I'm ensured to have, I don't have a soggy bottom or water doesn't get into my cheesecake, and it's easy to remove from the water bath when the cheesecake is done. And it's easy to remove from the water bath when my cheesecake is done. So I'm just gonna take my pan here. Voila, we're done. That's simple. And then we're gonna move some things around so you can see I have a lot going on right now. So we're gonna put that pan, because remember our cheesecake is in the spring pan, and then we put the spring pan into a cake pan. I have my tea kettle here because I just heated my water to right at boiling. And I'm just gonna pour that water into the pan until it's halfway up the side of that cheesecake. Another thing about the cake pan is my cake pan is a little more than halfway. So I use the cake pan to measure how much water I need in my pan. My cheesecake has successfully made it into the oven. I always get nervous because of that water bath. So let me give you a few follow-up instructions. So I already told you how to know when your cheesecake is ready. Once it comes out of the oven, you want to let it cool on a cooling rack for at least 30 minutes. You'll know because what'll happen, the excess air will escape and you'll see your cheesecake contract. It usually contracts from the sides of the spring pan. Usually, you know, that's when it's getting to that cooling stage and beginning to set. When you get to that stage after 30 minutes, you want to put it in the refrigerator for 4 hours to overnight. I encourage you, go for the overnight. The longer you can give a cheesecake to set, the more seamless it will cut, and the creamy it's just a lot better when you give it more time to set. You'll know what I'm talking about, because sometimes if it doesn't have long enough to set, it's not the true texture of a cheesecake. You need that setting time. So I encourage you to make it a day in advance and go for overnight, because I made mine today and I'm gonna finish it up with all of you tomorrow. Cheesecake baked beautifully. It's been sitting in a refrigerator overnight. It's now time to make our cream topping, because remember, this is a banana cream cheesecake, so it's all those flavors of a banana cream pie. And the topping is going to be a nice vanilla cream to kind of balance the taste of that banana. Banana could be a strong flavor, but with this vanilla cream topping layer, it's going to be so good. We are going to make some whipped cream to go on top as well. But let's get into making our cream. And this is almost like a cream pudding. We're gonna make it a little firmer because we do want it to be a topping. We don't want it as loose as you would have with a pudding. So we're gonna add a little bit more cornstarch than if you were making a pudding consistency. But there's two things we need to do to get started. One is we need to start warming our whole milk and our cream. So I'm gonna put my little burner here on medium, and I'm gonna add my milk. And my cream. We're gonna also add that sugar and a pinch of salt. I have a generous pinch of salt I add to mine. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna let that warm up, but how you know it's ready and how you know you've got your milk and cream to the stage where you really wanna start tempering your eggs, it's because all the sugar will be dissolved and this will begin to come to a simmer. So what I'm gonna do is whisk those ingredients together a little bit. We're gonna let that warm up and come to the temperature, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready. So while we have our cream and our milk, sugar and salt in our saucepan on medium coming to a simmer, we're gonna mix our eggs with our cornstarch. This is gonna be the base that holds our cream topping or pudding, if you will, together. So I'm gonna add those egg yolks as well as my cornstarch. Get all of that in there. Then I'm going to take my whisk and you're going to whisk those together. I start slow. As you can see, cornstarch is almost like, I consider it the consistency almost like you will when you're using cocoa powder. It likes to go all over the kitchen. So I do a slow mix to get that cornstarch and those egg yolks together. And then I start getting vigorous with it. You'll know when it's ready because you'll see those egg yolks come to a bright yellow, and you'll have all of your all that cornstarch kind of mixed in. And I'll show you what it looks like. See how my egg yolks are a bright sunny yellow? That's how you know when it's all combined and mixed together. All right, we're gonna keep this right here, and the reason I have a towel underneath this, because when we start whisking in that warm milk and cream mixture, we don't want this bowl to spin around. We want to be able to have the bowl stay in place. So if you put a kitchen towel under your bowl, it kind of gives stability. So as you're vigorously whisking and tempering your eggs, your bowl's not spinning and kind of negating everything you're doing. So let's give our cream mixture a little bit time to warm up and set up, and I'm going to show you when we get to that stage what it looks like, and then we're going to temper our eggs. I cleaned off my whisk. Just as you notice, I've been using for both. You don't want to put any of those eggs and cornstarch into your cream mixture just yet. So after washing off my whisk, I started whisking the cream and sugar and milk mixture just to make sure my sugar is dissolving and it's all combining. And as you can see, it's starting to simmer. So we're almost at that stage. I'm gonna give it like a few more seconds and then we're gonna start tempering our eggs. All right, so I'm gonna turn my burner off because I can hear that my milk and cream is actually at simmer stage. And what we wanna do, you wanna stream in your cream. You don't wanna add all of this warm or hot cream to these eggs just yet. So I'm gonna stream in just a little bit. And you're gonna whisk continuously as you add in that cream, because what you're doing is you're tempering your eggs. Tempering eggs prevents you from getting scrambled eggs. What it does is it gradually brings the eggs and cornstarch up to the same temperature as the milk and cream. So that's why you notice I'm adding a little at a time, because I don't want to overwhelm the eggs and cornstarch with anything that's too hot and then start cooking the eggs. I'm gonna add a little bit more. And just continuously whisking until you get those eggs nice and tempered and warmed up. So I'm just gonna start streaming a little bit of the rest, a little at a time. All right, I feel like I have a nice temper on the eggs. What I need to do now is I need to add this mixture back into my pan, and I'm gonna put this on medium once again, and you're gonna cook this on medium until this starts to thicken. And you'll start to feel that pudding or cream thicken fairly quickly. All right, so we're just gonna pour this back in and also continually whisk it. All right, you can see it thickened up fairly quickly. I told you it would come to a thicker consistency fairly quickly. So once again, I'm gonna turn my heat off, because you can see I have a nice thick cream filling here. Because this is a topping, I'm letting it get a little thicker than normal. All right, and we're gonna go back to our bowl, and I'm gonna pour all of that into our bowl. I'm gonna add the butter to my cream and the vanilla. And we're gonna whisk that just until it's nice and combined. And we're gonna let this cool a little bit. But while this is cooling, I'm gonna grab my cheesecake, because we're gonna top the cheesecake with this nice kind of puddingy vanilla cream that's gonna balance out that banana flavor. You don't want to put it on while it's piping hot. You do wanna let your cream cool a little bit, because it'll thicken up a little, because we're gonna create a nice smooth topping on top of the cheesecake. So here's my cheesecake. As I mentioned earlier, it baked beautifully. I'm going to remove the spring just to let you see it. One thing I do is when my cheesecake comes out of the oven, and if I know I'm gonna keep the spring on it for stability, I take a knife around the edge to make sure all of that cheesecake is free from the edge of the spring, so it doesn't pull my cheesecake apart because it's stuck. But just take a look how beautiful that is. The reason why I'm keeping the spring on is because I am going to use the spring to help us keep the cream in place. So I'm using it as like a barrier. I could take it off and smooth the cream, but I want a nice even layer of cream. I'm gonna actually take that cream and just pour on top of my cheesecake. And then using a spatula, just smooth it out. You could see that the cream is still warm, but as it cools, it's gonna get thicker and thicker. So when we put this in the refrigerator, that cream is gonna have the opportunity to completely set. creating a nice even layer on top of the cheesecake. So I have a nice layer of cream. The reason I have my knife here is because I smooth the cream out to the edge of the spring pan, but then I can take a knife and just detach the cream from the pan. And it actually detaches nicely because once again, that cream is setting up. So it really doesn't want to stick to the edge of my spring pan. So if I run the knife, it's giving me a nice even edge that I can, even if when I get ready to take the spring off, I can run the knife again just to make sure. But I do this just because it gives a nice edge to the cream at this stage, and I don't have to worry about too much sticking when I come back. All right, so we're done with our cream layer. I'm gonna smooth that out a little bit. It's setting up too much, so I need to stop. We're done with our cream layer. What we'll do now, or I will do now with this cheesecake, and you'll do it with yours at home, is put it back in the refrigerator. I give it at least another hour to 2 hours to set up before serving. I actually like to go longer, so I'm gonna give mine a little longer. You can always check it and see if that cream topping is set up to where you want it to be. Mine's setting up fairly quickly, so in a few hours it'll be ready to cut, but I'm just gonna give it a little extra. Once the cream is set up, we come back and make our whipped topping, and we're ready to go. Now that I've topped the cheesecake with that silky vanilla cream layer, we have it chilling in the refrigerator for some time. So we're gonna make our whipped topping, because what is a cheesecake without whipped topping of some sort? So one of the tips I do is I chill my mixing bowl for a little bit. There's no science really behind it. I just find it helps my cream whip up a little better and get a little bit more stability. So I'm gonna add my cold, heavy whipping cream. My 2 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar and my vanilla. And we're gonna whip this on high. I start out low, medium to high until our whipped cream comes to a nice whipped consistency. So we have our whipped topping all blended or whipped, as you can see. And then we're gonna add this to a piping bag to put on top of our cheesecake. A little tip, I use a drinking glass to give my piping bag stability so I can fold it back. You do not have to pipe your whipped topping onto your cheesecake. If you want to just put dollops of your whipped topping onto your cheesecake, go for it. It doesn't matter how it gets on there, just as long as you have a little bit on it. So I'm just scooping out and adding my whipped topping to my piping bag. And just fold it up. Voila, and there we go. So let me grab my cheesecake, move some things aside, and then we're gonna finish up topping our cheesecake with a little. As you can see, the cheesecake is beautiful. It has that nice cream layer on top. I have extra vanilla wafers here, and I have my whipped cream in a piping bag. You can do this however you want. I just like to do a little bit of rosettes just to create a little bit of interest on top of the cheesecake. You can pipe on your whipped topping however you see fit. I keep wanting to say whipped typing, I don't know why. Whipped topping however you see fit. As you guys know, I am from New Orleans, and every now and then little bits of my accent does try to peep out. Okay, so little dollops of whipped topping, and I'm just gonna take just some vanilla wafers and just kind of throw those in the center of that whipped topping. No rhyme or reason, doesn't have to be special. Just taking a little bit of those iconic vanilla wafers and placing in the center of my whipped topping. Voila, and there we have it, banana cream cheesecake. The cheesecake has all come together. We have our banana cheesecake with our cream topping, whipped cream with a vanilla wafer as garnish. I can't wait to dig into it. I want to cut it so that you can watch me eat it and entice all of you to make your own. So let's dive into this vanilla cheesecake and see how it came out. The first cut is always so exciting. It's that second cut that always makes me nervous. So let's pull our slice out. OMG, look at that. I cannot wait to show you what this looks like. Look at that. Oh my God, isn't that just a beautiful slice of cheesecake? Oh, so good, looks so good. I cannot wait to eat this. Such a beautiful slice of cheesecake. And we're about to dig into it. Okay, here we go. I get to taste this delicious recipe. The slice looks so beautiful. I don't want to bite into it, but I am, because I need to tell you all how it tastes, but most of all, I need to know how it tastes. Oh my God, look how creamy. It's so creamy. Here we go. Oh, that is so good. So good. Even if you don't like banana, I think you would like this cheesecake, because that vanilla cream topping counteracts the strong banana taste. So it's like, oh my God, just a great combo. Not overwhelming. It came out super smooth and fluffy. Thank you all for tuning in, watching one of my videos. Hit like, subscribe, come back and see me right here on The Sweet Spot. I have more delicious recipes coming to all of you, but this is one you have to try. It is so good. If you make it for loved ones, they'll be very impressed. See you all next time. Have a great afternoon, morning, night, evening, whatever you're doing. I will see you next time right here on The Sweet Spot.